Hello everyone and welcome back to Learn Arabic. Today's lesson is the second one out of this Introduction to Verbs series and it is all about roots. And since we've got a lot on our plate today, let's get straight to the subject. And to begin with, what is a root? Well, a root literally means the basic source or origin of something. And as far as Arabic grammar is concerned, it means the origin of the word. Think about it as the part of the plant which attaches it to the ground and conveys water and nourishment to the rest of the plant via numerous branches and fibers. You will see why we have chosen this specific example shortly afterwards. Right. So in the Arabic language, a root is called جذر, and the plural form is جذور. Again, جذر, جذور. Accordingly, we can easily and confidently say that a root is nothing but a 3 or 4 consonant-based word that represent a core meaning or a concept. So first thing first, a root is a 3 or 4 consonant word. However, for the sake of simplicity, we will be working only with 3 consonant roots at this stage. Right. So technically, a root is nothing but a sequence of consonants, no vowels allowed, and by vowels I mean long and short ones. But what is so special about this sequence of consonants? Well, a root is a base word from which other words are created by using the letters of the root as a base and by keeping in accordance with the core meaning within the new created words. And the question is, how do we create new words? And the answer is by the addition of vowels, short and long ones, as well as other consonants to the root itself. The words obtained are either nouns or verbs, no particles, simply because particles have no root. And since we are trying to familiarize ourselves with this new concept of roots, we are going to work with nouns and verbs today. But once we finish this lesson, we will focus only on verbs for the rest of this series and push back nouns to the right time. Right, so again, nouns and verbs are formed from the root by the addition of vowels and consonant to the root while keeping the core meaning and the letters of the root as a bounding ring. And the reason why such bound is fundamental lies in the definition of the root itself. Let me remind you that we've mentioned on the given definition that a root is a base word. What do we mean by base word? Well, the root serves as a base at 2 levels, the letters and the meaning. For example, the root عبد will create words that not only contains the letters عين, ba, dal, but also these words should revolve around the meaning of worship, since عبد means to worship. See? These are the 2 levels that the root serves as a base for. As examples of words derived from the root عبد, we have عابد, a worshipper. We basically played with short vowels and added a long one to create a new word from the root. Then we have عبادة, an act of worship. We played with short and long vowels and added another consonant. Next, معبود, and finally معبد, which is nothing but a place of worship, for example a temple or a mosque. Now, all of these examples are derivations from the root عبد. So, as it has been pointed out, the root is associated with the concept of worship, and multiple words have been derived from the root by making inflections and by adding vowels, and all of these words hover around the root by keeping the 3 base letters and by extending its meaning. Right. Before moving on to another examples, please let me draw your attention to the root itself. We will be highlighting the spelling along with another important detail. Number 1, the root can be written in 2 ways, cursive style or block script. Both are correct. However, no diacritic allowed. You should never ever write a root with diacritics. Still, you should read it as if each letter is in conjunction with a fatha. عبد. Listen carefully. عبد. Again. عبد. Brilliant. Moving on to the second note. Please take a look at the root عبد and to the letters order. عين comes first, then ba, and then dal. Now look at the words formed out of this root. They have different numbers of letters, but what they do have in common is that they all have the 3 root letters in the same order. I mean ayn, ba, dal, regardless of the letters in between. I.e., what matters is the order, but we can find other letters in the midst. And if we want to sum up, we can say that we can form all sorts of words out of the 3 root letters as long as they are immediately related to the core meaning of the root and as long as the 3 letters of the root are included and appear in the same order of the root, even if there is additional letters in between. I cannot stress enough the order. And you know what? Let's have a counterexample to help you see the picture. Our counterexample is داعب. Again, داعب. داعب is not a root obviously, since it contains long vowels and diacritics. داعب is a verb, and depending on the context, it could mean to tease, to tickle, or even to caress. So not only the meaning has nothing to do with worship, but also, if we pay attention to the order of the letters, I mean the root letters, the order is not respected. If da'aba was extracted from the root abada, the letter ayn should come first, followed by ba and da, which simply means that the word da'aba is not derived from the root abada. And this is true regardless of the meaning. You are not supposed to know the meaning of every single Arabic word. Even native speakers don't. If the order is not respected, the word don't belong to the root. As simple as that. Are we agreed? Brilliant. Let's move on to another example, and this time we have the root hakama. Again, hakama, which means to rule. Now, all of these words have been derived from the root hakama. We have hukmun, verdict, hakim, wise, hikmah, wisdom, hakamun, referee, mahkamatun, court, and hukumatun, government. Again, the Arabic words only this time: hukmun, hakimun, hikmatun, hakamun, mahkamatun, and hukumatun. As you can see, all of these words are related in a way or another to ruling, and they also have the 3 root letters in the same order of the root itself: ha, kaf, mim. So everything makes perfect sense, isn't it? Brilliant. One last example, but this time we are going to go topsy-turvy. I will give you a couple of words and you will have to guess the 3 letters of the root. And please remember to write the root with no diacritics. The style doesn't matter, cursive or block script. And the words are خلق, مخلوق, خالق, خلاق. Again, خلق, مخلوق, خالق, خلاق. I will read the words again to give you enough time to figure out the root. خلق, مخلوق, خالق, خلاق. And the root is خا, لا, خا, لا, قا. Brilliant. خلق. Good on you. And by the way, خلق means to create. Now, just for the record, in future lessons, obtaining the root will be a much easier process. The reason why, once we will study verbs conjugation, more precisely the past tense, you will come to realize that the root is most of the time the 3rd person masculine singular past form of the verb. I mean, a root is equal to he did the verb, whatever the verb is. He ate, for example, akala. He owned, malaka, and so on and so forth. Consider it as if the root is always the verb in the past tense. Be careful though, he, not the 3rd person in general. I mean not she did, he did, because there is a huge difference in Arabic. It's like day and night. So again, The root is often indicative of the past action that happens to correspond to the pronoun he, and therefore a root means he did something. And that's why the past tense is going to be the first tense we will study after finishing the 3 upcoming lessons about morphological measures, regular and irregular verbs, and the infinitive form. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still didn't fully answer our main question, and that is, if you didn't lose your train of thoughts obviously, why do we care about roots? Well, the Arabic language is heavily based on the root system, and the key to understanding how Arabic grammar works is in its system of roots. Once you will understand how roots work, you can start to identify which are the root letters of any word and understand the patterns they produce. You will then be able to form the different structures following the patterns and use your knowledge to pronounce words correctly and to guess the meaning of new vocabulary. And you are probably wondering by now, what is a pattern? Well, we are going to wrap up today's lesson with a glimpse at patterns and use this last section as a gateway to our upcoming lesson about morphological patterns and root words. And to achieve that, let's get back to our last example, خلق, the sequence root خلق. We all agree now that the root letters mushroomed into these words and that all of these words are in a way or another related to creation. But what we didn't agree on yet is that these words didn't pop up randomly. They also have, in addition to the base rules, to also abide by the rules of something called pattern, more precisely, morphological pattern. This pattern / measure is what we use to go from خلق to مخلوق. Because what really happens in the formation of the word مخلوق out of the root خلق is that the consonants of the root fit into the slots of the pattern, i.e. the mold, to allow the word to take form. In this particular case, the mold was مفعول. Think about it as if the pattern is a skeletal structure of vowels and consonants that gives the syllabic structure of a word. And luckily for you, these measures follow a logical system and are also limited in number, so it is mostly a matter of memorization. That's on one hand. On the other, since much of Arabic grammar is based on manipulating the 3 root letters into different patterns, we need to study these patterns first in order to be able to create and manipulate words in general and verbs in particular, which is our main goal during this series. So by and large, and to conclude today's lesson, we can say that Arabic nouns and verbs are the combination of 2 elements, root letters and patterns, and that from now on we are going to focus only on verbs during the rest of this series in a quest of mastering them. With that, I would like to thank you for your attention. شكرا على حسن استماعكم ومع السلامة.